So I just wanted to say thank you to Victor for being here with us and letting other people know through your communications program, Zealand Communications, I think it's called.
That's right. That's right. Victor. Yeah.
Yeah, so Victor and I actually collaborated several years ago on a letter to the Pope about UFO disclosure and why we were arguing that we thought it was an extremely important thing for the Catholic Church to come forward and tell the world what they know
Mhm.
about this. And I never really got any feedback from the Pope, but hopefully somebody there read our letter, and you just never know, you know, what
No,
good any of this is going to do, but we keep trying.
well, you can see some of the good that it's doing. I mean, it's taken a long time, but I began working on this back in 1977. At the Jesuit headquarters, in working with the Catholic Church to try to get at least the Jesuit order to lean forward on this issue, and got permission from the 10 provincials here in the country to do a 3-hour closed door seminar to the top 50 scientists at SETI, out at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California, on the theological implications of contact with an extraterrestrial civilization. And we actually at the Jesuit headquarters actually presented a proposal to the Washington Interreligious Staff Council that is made up of the Washington directors of all 54 of the major religious denominations, to try to set up a task force back in 1977 to get out ahead of this issue. But they just kind of stared at us when we proposed it. So but now they're now we have our office in their building.
Uh-huh.
Our offices in Washington, D.C., kind of running the New Paradigm Institute, meeting with the Senate and House staff, kind of briefing them up and getting briefed by them on the whistleblowers that are coming forward to talk with them. So,
So what was the New Paradigm Institute? Was that around when that meeting that took place at Berkeley? I want to say it was about 10 years ago, when up on the hill there where all of the different religions are
yeah,
represented. And
yes,
there
that's right.
there was a
That
big
was our
meeting.
initial office of the New Paradigm Institute. Yes,
Yeah.
that was Bill Stranger was there. He was running our office up there on the hill with the other religious groups there. We moved it then up to a large 70,000 square foot castle up on Clear Lake, up in Lake County, which it's a long and involved story, but we've now got the Washington, D.C. office right on Capitol Hill at the National Council of Churches, right next door to the Supreme Court and right next door to the Senate Intelligence Committee, where we can meet regularly with the staff to keep them pushing forward on more and more hearings on this, so that we can there's 8 different committees in the House and Senate combined that we believe ought to have some portion of the jurisdiction over this issue. And so we're doing that now. And I'll go back back into Washington here before the end of the month to get ready for a major gathering that we're going to have of a lot of UFO experts to try to brief the staff of the Senate Intelligence.
Great, great. So this new office that you have there for the New Paradigm Institute, that's where you're going to be working out of, and that will give you close proximity to the staff of all the representatives in the House of Representatives and the senators in the Senate.
That's right.
And that's where you're going to be working and trying to achieve. What would you say is your first goal that you would like to try to get done?
Well, the most important thing is to try to get the elements inside the executive branch, this kind of deep, previously undisclosed, unacknowledged special access program that they have going, which is a black operation, they call it, that is completely secret. It's above top secret. They've got a category apparently of cosmic top secret. And that to get them to cough up the information to at least intelligence committees of both the House and Senate. So what we're planning to do, we've gotten one statute passed already. Well, two statutes actually. We got a statute passed back in 2022, which set up the Arrow Office, the All Domains Resolution Office. That's an office where whistleblowers can come forward and give their information to the Arrow Office without any kind of recriminations or retaliation taken against them. But the problem is that office doesn't really interpret its role as being investigatory, to actually go out and get information about this or to extract the information from the different undisclosed special access programs that have the information. And so what we did is we came back in 2023 and we got a second statute passed, which we were trying to get an independent agency set up that would be able to extract all of this information, working on behalf of the Congress to gather all the information up and put it in a completely comprehensible form and then provide it to the intelligence committees. But the head of the House Intelligence Committee scuttled that and stopped us from getting the independent board set up. But we did get through on December 22nd of 2023 a 24-page bill, which commands, all 6 of our United States military services, all 18 of our United States intelligence agencies, all 32 of the Defense Department agencies, and very importantly, all of the private aerospace industries that have been put into possession of any of the UFO technology to attempt to back engineer it in any way. They're ordered by the Congress now, signed by the president, to turn over this information to the National Archives. And it can be put into the archives in a classified section of the archives. But we've achieved that so far. And we're now working on a statute for 2024 to mandate the turning over of all of it and putting enforcement mechanisms in whereby the committees can subpoena the information and mandate that it goes into the archives. So there's a 3-step process that's underway right now, and we're working on step 3 right now.
Well, that will be excellent if New Paradigm Institute can play a role in getting that legislation passed, so that what was passed this recently really gets some teeth, that it becomes enforceable with
right.
the subpoena power.
That's
I think all of us were pretty disappointed. I think that the UAP Disclosure Act of 2023, the Schumer Rounds bill, didn't go through as we had all hoped that it would. But, this is little steps. And today's Martin Luther King Day. Happy Martin Luther King Day to everyone. And as he said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And I think that that's right. It's an apt description of where we are right now with UFO disclosure. We've been waiting on this for 77 plus years. Every single one of us that's alive today has had our civil rights trampled on by these people that want to continue to keep this secret and keep it away from not just American citizens, but the citizens of the world, who every one of us has a right to know about Mother Nature and what the magnificence of creation has come forth with. And all of that is being denied to us. and has been for a long time. So hopefully New Paradigm Institute can play a role in modifying the arc of justice, make it bend a little sharper.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
down.
all of us here, and all of the other people that we can reach, there's like 27 of us here tonight. And the
Right.
others will see this because it's recorded. But what everybody needs to do is to get in touch with newparadigm.org. It's all you do, New Paradigm Institute, newparadigminstitute.org. Name in your zip code, and it'll send a message right immediately to your congressperson and to your senators, giving them support, putting wind under their wings, as it were, to hold these hearings because they want to. The overwhelming majority of Republicans and Democrats in both the Senate and the House want this full bill, the 64-page bill that we put in to begin with, and it passed the Senate. It passed the Senate Intelligence Committee 17-0, with every Republican and every Democratic senator voting for it. And it passed the United States Senate, and it went over to the House side. And it was there that the aerospace industry and the CIA people focused on the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Michael Turner, his name is, and he comes from the 10th Congressional District in Ohio, which is where the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is, which is where they took the original crash saucer from Roswell back in July of 1947. And it's one of the places where they've been working on trying to understand the technology of the UFOs. And he ended up, this Michael Turner, who chairs the Intelligence Committee on the House side, recruited the Republican chairman of the Armed Services Committee in the House side, Michael Rogers, his name is, and he's from the 2nd Congressional District in Alabama, which is the home of the Redstone rocket testing range, where they're trying to integrate some of the technology from the UFOs that they've recovered into making a missile that will, from launch site in the U.S., will strike into the heart of Russia or China inside of 2 minutes.
Oh,
And so that's what they're trying to do. That's why you can't allow the Defense Department and the covert intelligence community to monopolize the access to this information, because all they'll attempt to do is make weapons out of it. That the old Sufi saying is, when a pickpocket meets a saint, all he sees are his pockets. And that's what's happening here with the Defense Department and the intelligence agencies. They view themselves as being charged with the responsibility for establishing full military dominance over the planet. Now that's right directly from their own language in the 1992 United States Defense Department policy planning guidance document. That's what it says they view their mission to be. And the purpose of that mission is to maintain our continued privileged access to the strategic raw materials needed by our corporations. And so that it's, what's good for General Motors is good for America. It's that kind of thing. And
right.
it's a completely myopic approach to this. As here we're looking at the one of the probably the most astounding specific pieces of reality and information that our human family has come across, and all they can think of is to try to make a weapon system out of it,
Right.
which was going to totally destabilize the entire geopolitical order of our planet, where they've set up a whole architecture to try to prevent nuclear war by not allowing anybody to develop and deploy a first strike missile system. And so this is an extraordinarily important moment in many different ways.
Yes.
But the one we want to keep focused on, if we can, is what the positive consequences are going to be for actually establishing direct contact with this extraterrestrial civilization. And now we've gotten the United States Congress to effectively acknowledge and they've taken testimony, as you probably all know now, on July 26th. Colonel Grush, David Grush, came before the committee and under oath testified, as the National Reconnaissance Office liaison to the secret UFO task force at the Pentagon, testified that he's interviewed over 40 people, firsthand knowledge of the fact that we have an intact extraterrestrial, non-human spacecraft in possession, and that we're in possession of biological evidence showing the non-human nature of the species that is piloting these UFOs. Now, that's an extraordinary.
It is.
You would think that they'd be breaking into soap operas and HBO specials to reveal this to the world, but the national security state people have been so effective in stifling this information because they want to keep it secret, so they can use it exclusively to develop a weapon system to be able to establish full spectrum dominance over the planet. And we make up the 5% of our human family who are people here in the United States who can do something about that. If we can only mobilize, and our allies in Canada can do it there. With regard to your government too, to force them to come forward with this information, so that we can demilitarize this entire issue and start to work on the theology and the philosophy and the economic analysis and everything in the social psychological analysis of what the impact of this realization is going to be with our human family. And so we can develop, dare I say, a new paradigm, a new human worldview that integrates all of this reality, so that we know that not only are we not in the geophysical center of the entire universe, as we once thought, which we sort of dealt with Copernicus and Galileo, back in the 15th century. But, the reality is we're not, in fact, at the apex of the pyramid of all sentient life in the universe. We just have to get used to this, but we have to develop a new paradigm that doesn't completely eliminate in our own minds the sense of our own value. We don't have to be number one in the entire universe in order to be of value. And the problem is that the entire spectrum of human worldviews that we've developed to date, in fact, all share that same common feature, that they all assume that we are, in fact, the preeminent sentient species in the entire universe. So that we, just to realize how strange that is, to believe that the entire trillions of stars in our universe, in the planets that now surround our orbit them, that we're the only intelligent life form in the whole universe, and that the entire universe is nothing but a stage on which to play out the drama of the evolution of our single species from a single cell life form in the primordial slime of our planet, into being star voyagers. That's the story, that's the narrative that characterizes these worldviews. And so we've got to we've got to work hard, first of all, to try to get the information that we know the government has turned over to at least the intelligence committees in Congress, then get it turned over to all the members of Congress, then get it turned over to all the people in our country, and then get it. Obviously, that's the same thing as revealing it to the world. That's what we need to do. And we can move in a positive direction to demilitarize this information and get back on the track of trying to develop a positive and constructive and mutually beneficial relationship with the extraterrestrial civilization. It sounds like a science fiction movie, but it turns out it's true.
Yeah. We have work to do to make ourselves fit to be part of that organization that's apparently part of our galaxy, and it's something that we can all work on. Thank you for that explanation of New Paradigm Institute. And again, it's newparadigminstitute.org, And when you go there, you'll find a take action button. And I think that take action button, I hope everybody is going to be exercising your fingers on that frequently, because there's a letter there that's pre-written. All you got to do is put in your name, your email address, and your zip code, I think, and press the send button, and it will go to your representatives. And I've done it a couple of times already, and I hope every single person listening here tonight is going to take advantage of this tool that we have now to use that makes it so simple and efficient to get your opinion sent off to your representatives in Congress. Because without that, I don't think we're going to be heard, you know. And while you're working on these legislations, how about a law that prohibits any faction of our government from making American citizens a target of their counterintelligence programs? I would really like to see something like that happen. You know, I resent being a target of the intelligence community and the Department of Defense and whoever else has been propagating these lies and making people look foolish. I don't see, you know, why as an American citizen I have to tolerate that, you know, and I really wish that we had some strong legislation passed that would prohibit that from happening ever again in the future.
I think there's going to be a number of ancillary issues that are being raised over this, and that I think most of the people that we're working with on the Hill think in terms of eventually having some kind of a joint House and Senate special select committee put in place, like the church committee that was done in 1975 and 76. They were so stunned over the Watergate burglary when they realized that, you know, 4 of the people that were in the Watergate hotel burglarizing the Democratic National Committee were CIA people, you know, and so that resulted, following the Watergate hearings themselves, with the creation of the House and Senate Select Committee on Intelligence Abuse. And they began to look into some of the unlawful and unconstitutional activities of the intelligence community, but they've never really followed through with that. You know, they ended up setting up intelligence committees for the first time, you know, in the House and Senate to have oversight over them, but they haven't finished the job yet. And this is one that, this is, in my judgment, having worked on this for, you know, over 50 years, you know, that this is the largest single bipartisan constituency on this issue of anything else in the entire country. That everybody, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, whether they're senators or House members, or whether they're people, citizens or business people, all of the people want to have this information. And they want to be able to have a positive and constructive relationship with this extraterrestrial civilization. And yet there's this 1/1000th of 1% of the people in the country, here in the United States primarily, who are clamping down on this information, and they're punishing not only government officials to keep this secret, but they're punishing American citizens who, you know, you have a UFO land in a field next to your house, and you go and have an encounter with them, and you try to tell anybody about this officially because you trust your government and you believe you could contact the government and tell them that this is happening. Here, you need to do something about this, and all they do is get threatened, and they send them to a psychiatrist. They go around telling their neighbors that they're crazy. They destroy the relationships in their family in order to discredit them. You know, this is absolutely, totally unconscionable. What is going on here? But we're trying not to organize from a negative, hostile, attacking, judgmental type of dialectic against this tiny percentage of people that are doing this. What we're trying to do is to lift everybody up in an upward, positive, forward manner, so that the enthusiasm of our people on behalf of getting this information and being able to step out into the future is what really motivates and engines our whole movement.
Absolutely.
doing at the New Paradigm Institute.
Yeah. Also, I want to mention Ubiquity University, which is there's a YouTube channel called Humanity Rising, and I believe that's run by a man named Jim Garrison, who I believe you know, and he kind of works with you in Washington, D.C.
Our Washington office director.
Okay.
On
Well,
this paradigm
I just
project.
want to make sure that everybody here that's listening is aware of Humanity Rising, because the videos that they put out on their YouTube channel are excellent and they're very informative. And so I hope everybody will avail yourselves of those videos on Humanity Rising. And I'm not exactly sure what Ubiquity University is all about, but it seems as though maybe it's going to be an effort to formally educate people about the history of the UFO phenomenon, what's known about it. And I think that's a great idea. You know, we need something like that.
Well, very importantly, Richard, it's a college credit course that people can actually are going to be able to now through the New Paradigm Institute, in partnership with Ubiquity University, are going to be able to get full undergraduate BA degrees, in Bachelor's of Science degrees, and graduate school master's degree credit, and PhD degrees in extraterrestrial studies. It's the first college degree granting program in the world over dealing with extraterrestrial issues. And so this is extraordinarily important that people can go to, in addition to being able to take action, to put the positive support in to the members of Congress that want to get this issue really revealed to our intelligence community, or excuse me, to our intelligence committees. You know, that we're also providing free information to everybody.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we're in the process right now. Richard Dolan and myself, we're putting together a big memo that's 100 facts that you need to know about the UFO issue.
Excellent. Yeah.
And it's going to be, it's got footnotes in it. It's got the details of, how you can prove each of these facts, so that, when you're talking to your friends and your neighbors and your family people, you can say, look I know that you may have thought that I was a little bit eccentric, for all this time when I've been expressing an interest in the UFO issue. But the reality is, let me show you. Here's a document. Here's a link. Here's a thumb drive. You can put it on a thumb drive, right? And hand it to them. You say, look,
Yeah.
here, Grandpa, here, Aunt Maggie, stick this in your little computer and take a look at this. And this has got the detailed information, for the most part, with internal government documents that we have gotten our hands on, that are verified official documents showing the truth of what it is that we're talking about, that they've known since 1947. That these are craft from another non-earthly domain.
Right.
And
Right.
they started appearing as soon as when we detonated the first nuclear bomb, in droves, at Yucca Flats, back in 1945. And that they've been monitoring what we've been doing. They've been monitoring our military bases that have nuclear weapons on them. They've been monitoring our nuclear aircraft carriers and our nuclear bomb carrying aircraft. That there have been thousands of direct encounters that people have had face to face with the occupants of the UFO vehicles, in which they're being telepathically informed that you've got to get rid of these nuclear weapons. You've got to stop this, not because they're afraid of them. The fact is that it's been demonstrated over and over again that you can't do anything to these craft. They've shot at them and tried to bomb them. They try to do all this kind of stuff. They have crashed upon occasion, but nothing that has been ever officially acknowledged that they were shot down in any way. That somehow that these craft have, in fact, whether they're donating the information to us, trying to provide some of the technology to us, if we're smart enough to understand it and to be able to back engineer it, But the bottom line is that that we've been told over and over again that we're in danger of destroying our entire human civilization. In fact, terminating our entire human species, self-inflicted over this. That's something that we need to. I mean, if there's any subject matter that should mobilize everybody, it's this. That not only that we're being visited by an extraterrestrial civilization warning us against nuclear weapons, but we ourselves have to take action. We've got this 0.001% of our human family that are building these thermonuclear weapons and threatening to kill the planet, its life generating function of our whole planet in our species. So we've got to mobilize now, not out of fear, not out of anger, not out of resentment, but in fact, in a positive, as I said, upward, positive, forward manner, to put wind under the wings of our representatives and to take the action ourselves to find out about all the information that we already know about these craft and these people, these beings that are flying them. But we've got to be able to share it with all of our neighbors and all of our friends, and be able to push through this thing of, oh, gee, somebody's going to think you're a little eccentric if you do this. History is going to look back upon us, even the 30 plus people that are here tonight, but every one of us, they're going to look back at us at this time and say, what did you do? What did you do when you actually were put in possession of this information? What, you were worried about someone, you were being embarrassed by trying to tell them something like that. Every one of us thinks that if we were born back in Rome times, we would have been bold enough to oppose human slavery. That we believe that we would have opposed, totally tyrannical rulers, etc. But this is the challenge that we have now, here and now, in our time, in our generation. This is the challenge that we have to stand up morally, to do what's essential to protect our human family against our own self-destruction. And
if we're not going to take a moral stance on it, what about the potentials that are there for trying to help solve our climate change crisis? The energy. I know that David Knuth, the scientist, he did an estimate of the Tic Tac performance and came out with a number that was like that the Tic Tac UFO was producing somewhere around the neighborhood of 11 gigawatts of power, which he stated in that paper, which was called, I think, Performance Characteristics of UAP. And it was a formal scientific paper. And he said that single UFO, which was 40 feet in diameter, was putting out an equivalent amount of power to all of the nuclear power produced in the United States.
Yeah.
Why would we not embrace that, and go after that as a potential solution for our fossil fuel addiction?
Okay. So they're strictly utilitarian, kind of short-term, self-interested motivations that can be mobilized here to attempt to deal with this. The one of the things that we need to be extraordinarily careful about, however, is not allowing, on the one hand, not allow the military to have exclusive control over this technology, because we know what they're going to try to do with it, but also not to turn it into a mercantile motive. That somehow, people have to get private patent rights, over the technology and be able to become trillionaires, so that they can have their great grandchildren, live in the lap of luxury over monopolizing this technology and using it for their own private profit. That we've got to make this available for our whole human family. That we've got millions of people dying of starvation, every single year on our planet because of the lack of energy to be able to pump water to give them food, in clean water. This is an extraordinary opportunity. This is almost a theological event that is taking place here that we have to respond to. It's like being alive at a point where one of the prophets walks right up to you and you don't do anything about it, you know?
Yeah. Right.
You walk away and say, well, I can't be troubled over that one. And that's what's going on right now. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what's happening right now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a completely constricted, closed-minded, narrow-minded utilization of this information. And not only that, but protecting its exclusivity in this group of people with threats of violence and destruction of your rights. That we've really got to mobilize here and step forward and exercise the kind of courage that we would like to pretend to ourselves that we would have exercised at periods in the past where we now know that there were a very limited number of people who had the courage to really stand up against
Yeah.
the structures at that time, and that this is what this is an incredible opportunity that we have here
Yes.
in our lifetime.
Well, this is the reason that I wanted to have this meeting on Martin Luther King Day, because he is a great example of somebody who had the courage to stand up and say no to power and fight for the civil rights of not just Black people, but for all of us. And we are all now fighting for our right to this information. And we're going to be, you know, a united voice trying to get this information used in the proper way and in the proper channels to support all of the things, Danny, that you've been explaining that we should be prioritizing, you know, and certainly isn't another bigger, faster, more lethal nuclear bomb, you know. We've got to do better than this, you know. We've got to set the bar a little bit higher in what, as you say, our human family is trying to achieve, you know. I'd like to see the day when our human family is part of this galactic civilization that goes out into the universe and helps budding civilizations get their act together, you know, as we're being sort of helped along the road here with these interventions with our nuclear weapons being a great example. So the human potential, I think, is just so great if we just can avoid doing ourselves in by listening to and just letting these people that are running this show right now take free reign over this information and what's to be done with it. You know, we've got to
Well,
start
look,
fighting back.
well, for example, like Victor's here. Victor can tell you that it's important for you to understand that how much information we already know
Mhm.
about. You know, I mean, that we can't be caught just saying, "Oh, please, please, government, tell us what you know." I mean, we've got, you know, tens of thousands of examples of data and information about this phenomena, and that we're going to be gathering it together at the New Paradigm Institute, and you can get it for free, and not only in pieces, but you can get entire courses in it. You know, where you can actually learn details about all this stuff and what the readings are and all this. And Victor, why don't you, for the people who don't know, what would be your sense at the present time of what the percentage is of the information about the UFOs that our government probably has that is probably already available for our people if they would only believe it? You know, now that it's been confirmed by Congress that it's real and that these actually things they exist. What's your sense of what percentage of the information we actually have access to that we can already provide for people if they'll only come to the New Paradigm Institute.org website?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Danny. My sense of that is probably in excess of 80%,
Hmm.
if not more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be my overall assessment. I'd have to think more about the specifics of it, but when you look at what has been researched since the early 50s and what we've gathered has been hidden under a basket for 75 years, and that basket is growing every single day by the minute, especially since 2017. I mean that's that's what I call the beginning of the New Testament of this particular time in history that we're presented with. The pre 2017, I look at it as the Old Testament, the old word about this stuff. But what happened in 2017 in the New York Times article brought it forward to a huge portion of the human family about what's really going on, and it's expanding at, I think, at a quantum rate. And thanks to yourself and other advocates. So I would say that in excess of 80 to 85% is already known, that we could make available to the rest of the global community. And it also brings up a really interesting question. I think you've broached this before, Danny, is who owns this information? That to me is a really big question. It appears internationally that, and if you look at it from the point of view of a novice who might be coming into this for the first time, that the United States government has proxy over this, that they feel that in some way, shape, or form, all of the information about the extraterrestrial issue belongs to them. And I could just throw it back to you and say, how would you respond to that mode of reasoning that everything that's happening some way, in some shape or form, belongs to the United States of America, but not to the rest of the human family?
Well, this is a subset of the other general problem that Richard you raised, and this is the institution of the national security state in the United States. The United States, right at the end of World War II, finding themselves uniquely situated, where England had been carpet bombed by Germany, Germany had been carpet bombed by us and the Allies. Russia had lost 20 million people. They were tearing up the rails that went from Russia into Europe because they didn't have any metal. And so at that point in time, the United States remained virtually untouched, from their homeland in any way. Our resources hadn't been damaged. They'd lost a number of people in the war, but the bottom line is that was at that point where they decided that they were going to take advantage of that moment and move forward and establish basically full spectrum dominance over the planet. And they set up the national security state with a central intelligence agency in its covert operations under Section 5412 of the National Security Act of 1947, and that they garnered unto themselves basically an interpretation of that provision that they thought authorized them to wage covert war across the planet in order to gain privileged access to all the strategic natural materials of the planet, and to establish complete hegemony over the planet. This is a very, very dangerous situation. Now, it's not that this hasn't been done in the past. The Roman Empire, Alexander the Great, this quest to establish full dominion over the whole known civilization has been the motive of a very, very tiny percentage of our human family. Now, they've demonstrated that they'll resort to use of violence and torture and everything to try to move forward that objective. But we must stop them now. The time has arrived where they've now armed themselves with a type of powerful weapon that can destroy all of our species. And we cannot simply stand by wringing our hands any longer and saying, we'll just trust them to figure out a way not to kill us all. The doomsday clock is at 11:59 in like 30 seconds, right now. That we've got to turn back that clock and basically turn it back all the way to high noon to get rid of this, so that we can shine the light of solar power and alternative sources of energy, and discover whatever the source of energy is that these UFO vehicles use to travel at superluminal speeds.
Right.
And that's just focusing on the one which I guess some people refer to as a more prosaic explanation of this phenomenon, that these are organic, intelligent species like our human species from other star systems who have figured out a technology by means of which they can shield themselves against gravity and can project themselves at superluminal speeds, perhaps extra dimensional speeds, where they can actually come here to our planet and go. And that they clearly have access to a form of energy that could provide all of the energy that's necessary here on our planet, if in fact we could confine that to not be used for weapons.
Right.
Now, that's clearly part of a consideration, almost certainly that they have, is that they can't make this information available to us because at the present level of our evolution, we would try to transform it into weapons, which we're doing already. So that I remember, I should just tell you the story in time we have left, that Lou Elizondo, whom I represent, who was the head of the top secret program in the Pentagon studying the UFO phenomenon, he and I were sitting around with some of the staff people over on the Hill that are knowledgeable about this stuff, and they were saying, gee, it's so frustrating. Why don't the UFO beings actually just come down here? Come down here and provide this kind of stuff for us. Solve our cure cancer. Stop these spread of these diseases that they may know the cure for. Provide the technology for us for alternative energy. And I told them the story. I said that, look, there's the story of this young boy who loved butterflies. And he had this huge aviary, with these gossamer little nets out in his backyard where all the butterflies got to fly around and reproduce. But he was looking for a perfect specimen of a monarch butterfly. And he looked around and around. And he finally found a cocoon of a perfect monarch butterfly. And he brought it home and he put it in a little box with cotton in it, and he put lights on it to keep it warm. And he observed it, waiting for it to come out. And there came a point where the butterfly had evolved inside the cocoon and was breaking out of the cocoon. And it was struggling to break out. And it got to the point where there was just one remaining silken thread holding the butterfly in the cocoon. And the butterfly was struggling and struggling and struggling against this last silken thread. And the little boy watched this, and he became so compassionate about the poor butterfly that he went and got a little pair of scissors and he snipped that last silken thread, and the butterfly came free. And it was an absolutely perfect specimen of a monarch butterfly, except that it could never fly. It was because the butterfly had to be exercising their muscles against that last silken thread in order to develop the muscle structure that enabled the butterfly to fly. And that's what we're looking at right now. And I explained that to the guys. I said, look, we have to be able to sever the last silken threads that we have woven around ourselves that has put us in this cocoon that has kept us from traveling to the stars. That we've got to overcome this last silken thread, of nuclear weapons, of still human slavery, the economic injustices, the environmental degradation of our planet. We have to be able to sever these last silken threads ourselves in order to qualify, in order to be able to fly, to be able to move into our galaxy, to share the galaxy with our neighbors. We can't sit back and just wait for them to come and help us, because that way we would be going out among them at a low level of consciousness that would contaminate their entire civilization. That we've got to evolve beyond where we are right now, in order to merit this next step in our human evolution.
That makes perfect sense. It's kind of like we have to go through the school of hard knocks to fully mature as a civilization and get to a worldview, a level of a worldview where we prioritize things other than who wins or who has the most money, or all of these things that are so important in our society today. We've got a lot of growing still to do, but I think a lot of people are starting to get it fairly quickly here. I see things popping up, for example, I saw a new website Joan brought to my attention called unhidden.org, and it's a group of psychologists in the UK that are actually creating a website and a service to people specifically for individuals who are starting to get that we're not alone, and they're developing some anxiety about it. Some people are developing some anxiety or some fear about it, and this group of psychologists is developing this website as a place for people to go who are experiencing that kind of anxiety and want to get some help with it. So, and it is really specifically just for people that are beginning to respond emotionally to what's going on with disclosure, which is in progress. I
Well,
was
I should point out, Richard, too, that look, in addition to getting our government to turn loose of some of the information that they've got about this, the churches, the major churches and spiritual communities around our planet, that they've known for millennia, in some cases, that that our human species is capable of so much more. The kind of qualities of our human species, of the stories they tell about the saints and the mystics, of being able to transmute matter, of being able to levitate, to be able to walk on water, to be able to heal people with their hands, to bring people into resonant harmony with the natural frequencies of the body to heal. These are things that our human family is capable of. But we have to understand this. We have to get the churches to start sharing this information. They've developed a hierarchy in those spiritual communities where they hide this information and they keep it secret from the people, again, because they're afraid that people will misuse this.
yeah.
But what we've got to do, we're at the 11th hour. We're at the 11th hour and 59 minutes and 30 seconds and counting. We've got to come forward with this information and share it with our people,
Right.
and evolve to merit this place that.
To that end, I want to mention one of our members at the Marcel Library that comes regularly is a man named Ken McLean. I don't know if Ken's with us here tonight, but he did a presentation at the Universal Unitarian Church here in Helena, Montana, filmed it, and it's up on YouTube. And I will send everybody, I've got a set of notes here that I'm going to send out in a link that has a lot of links that I think people will be interested in. But one of them is Ken McLean's presentation to his fellow churchgoers there at the Unitarian Church in Helena. And I just want to emphasize how important it is for all of us to, wherever we walk in our lives and whatever we do in our daily lives, if we can engage other people with this. Don't just sit back and be a spectator about this. Do anything you can think of. If you belong to the Lions Club, make a presentation. I've gone down to Boulder High School and made a presentation down there to the high school kids down in Boulder. There's so many opportunities that we're not taking to engage our fellow citizens with this and get this message out there that, listen, like Danny said, it's 11:59 and a half, and we need to get this done. Danny, what do you think the possibility is that the Vatican may step up and make a move that really pushes things forward?
Well, we're reaching out to Francis now about this. We're trying to convene a gathering of all of the major leaders of all of the major denominations on the planet, to have them come together in a major summit conference, a global summit conference on this issue, and to move forward to come up with some kind of a collective consensus about sharing this information with the world. This needs to have an evangelical nature to it. The evangel, this is the news, bringing the news. See, this is good news that we have now, that there's life elsewhere in the universe, that there are other civilizations that have survived their nuclear era, or whatever the technology was that they ran into that could have been totally self-destructive. That there's good news that they've been able to survive this. So we can survive this if we'll join together to share their optimism. So what we're asking for is kind of an evangelical rising up of the spiritual communities around the planet. Not so much to say, oh, let's have the ETs tell us what their spirituality is, but to tell us what our own spirituality is, what the real secrets are that are being withheld from our people about the potentials of our whole human species. This is something that the churches and synagogues and temples and ashrams and others have to come forward with right now. And so that we're working on that right now.
That's great. We need to hear from them. This is the time when I think they need to show some real leadership and quit hanging on to these 2,500-year-old, habits that have served so well for so long, but they need there needs to be an update on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's right now is the time for him to come forward and do that, so I hope you're
yeah, people shouldn't be flocking to the churches, synagogues, and temples out of fear. Like in what was it? The invaders of whatever it was. The big War of the Worlds. Remember the old initial War of the Worlds? All the people are flocking to the churches, in panic and whining and crying about the end of the world. They should be coming to the churches and synagogues and ashrams in celebration, of the capacities of our human family, to have the scales fall from our eyes, to have the lights come on, to understand what the full capacities are of our human family, so that we can rise to the occasion and cut off those last final threads that are prohibiting us from our full potential, that will actually merit our husbanding and guarding the life generating capacity of our planet. That we're obviously not the only planet that generates life in the universe, because now we can tell. But it's a rare phenomenon to have the planets that are able to gestate life itself, and we need to safeguard and protect this planet, and make the life forms available here throughout the galaxy, so that we can spread life throughout the galaxy in a positive and uplifting way. That's part of our mission as a human.
right. So we're into this about an hour. I don't know how much time, Danny, you have to spend, and I don't want to monopolize the whole conversation here with you. So do you have time?
Other people can ask some questions here, Richard.
Yeah, that's what I want to do, is just open up. If somebody has a question they want to ask, just I don't know how to. I've got you all muted, I think. So
there's Victor. I see Victor's hand up right now.
Yeah, Victor. Okay.
As usual. There's you can't discuss everything all at once, because there's just so many facets to this whole issue. I just like to throw out a question. It's several prongs, I guess. There's a pathway to understanding where we need to go with this, and sidestepping government and military and all of that. You've alluded to that many, many times, Danny. Um, what are the possibilities of somehow, and you talk about diplomacy, you've addressed that issue before, diplomacy with species that are out there. And if there are species that are out there that are willing to take the risk to engage us in some sort of diplomatic dialogue about this whole issue of uh, how contact might occur. What are your thoughts on that? And is there any kind of pathway to that, and opening that kind of dialogue to normalize a discussion or a narrative, so that people don't think we're worried about it? And to actually speak with these I know the contactees have done it, but what sort of diplomatic outreach is possible? I know that's out on a limb, but how do you see that?
It's very, very, very important, Victor. In fact, at the New Paradigm Institute.org, we're going to have training sessions for people to be able to do this. That Dr. Garrison, who's our Washington office director, was one of the people that was instrumental in developing the citizen diplomacy outreach to the Soviet Union, meeting directly with Gorbachev before he was even president in Russia, negotiating the stepping back of Russia from the Cold War, the de-escalation of the nuclear weapons productions, etc. These are things that can be extraordinarily productive. And once we really come to grips with the reality that these beings are like any other people, and that we need to have diplomatic relations with them, and meet with them face to face and have discussions, and that we do not need to be dependent upon the government structures that are so dominated by mercantile and military interests. That what we need to do is that there's a whole CE5, close encounters of the fifth kind, that are initiated by human beings, that we gather together, and you go out into open meadows, and you sit in circles and meditate to get into a high state of frequency, and reach out to the stars, to these beings, and invite them in. That they're waiting to be invited by our human family. And so that's what I think we can be doing. So that at the New Paradigm Institute.org, there's going to be an entirely new training process by which we train people and train you to become trainers, so that we're hoping to have 435 different action teams, one for each congressional district around the country. And what we're going to be doing is helping to train people to be in each one of those pods to help train other people about how to have training for other groups, so that you can, just like Johnny Appleseed, you can just spread this ability around to all of your friends and neighbors and family, and have them do this. Even if they're a little embarrassed to begin with, they can go out all by themselves if they dare. Go out all by themselves and sit in a field and open themselves up and invite these beings in. Billy Meyer over in Scandinavia has done this. Dozens and dozens of people have started to develop the ability to open themselves up to this invocation, to invite these beings to come in. I'm going to be working with the churches not to get into demonizing this or being afraid that you're going to open yourself up to be kind of invaded and occupied. None of that is true. So that this is a very specific service that the New Paradigm Institute is going to be providing training. This is the conversation I had with Dr. John Mack. I represented Dr. John Mack at Harvard back in 1994 or 95 when he was confronted by a Harvard faculty committee because of his having written a book about this whole issue. Before he died, he and I were deeply involved in trying to organize a citizens diplomacy corps of reaching out, training people through holotropic breathing. This Stanislav Grof has developed to be able to calm yourself, get yourself centered, because the reality is when you encounter one of these beings, one of these craft, that no matter how courageous we all think you're going to be, the reality, you got a billion years of cellular training, built into our system to kind of freak out when you actually see something that is so completely surprising and stunning that you need to really train yourself ahead of time, so that you can calm down and stay centered, reach out and have a communication with these beings. That's what they're looking for. That's what they're waiting for. That's the kind of thing that they're hoping we're going to be able to be wise enough to adopt. So the answer is an emphatic yes. A citizens diplomacy corps to reach out and have direct diplomatic relations with these beings. Don't worry about the federal government trying to prosecute you and saying that that it's a violation of the Neutrality Act for a private citizen to try to have any kind of negotiations with a foreign power. I'll defend you for free. The New Paradigm Institute will defend you for free, and love to have the opportunity to go in front of a jury and explain to them what you're doing. If they try to prosecute you for this. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
don't about that.
So Paul Pacini, did you have a question
Yeah.
or a comment?
Well, it follows what Dan is just talking about. I'd like to know if you have any idea when this training might be available, and how do we find out about it? Do we just stay in touch with the New Paradigm Institute.org or what?
That's right. Stay right in touch with the New Paradigm Institute.org, and we're going to be posting as these programs come online to be more and more available. We're in the process right now of putting together a major sophisticated website that can service the people directly, to provide the training and the service, the information. We're compiling the information. We're inviting a number of major players in the UFO field to come to our national headquarters, at the end of February. We're going to gather there and try to get everybody to start consolidating the information, vetting the information, so that we can put out the top priority information that we're the most certain about to share with people. This is an extraordinarily exciting operation that's going on at the New Paradigm Institute.org. So just get on board as fast as you can. The 99% of all of this is completely for free. When we're going to be doing full degree generating courses, we're going to have to bring in accredited PhD philosophers and theologians and others, So we're going to have to pay the people to come in to do the courses. So that I think it's going to be like $100 or something for the full course, where you get the full credit for the course. That we're working that out now with the Ubiquity University.
Okay, thank you. Danny, I just wanted to make sure that you were able to meet James Lowe or Jim Lowe. He's a lawyer in California. He's been very active
yes.
in all of this. You can see him waving his hand there. Anyway, he's been a great resource.
I sent a note to you, Richard, asking for his contact information because I wanted to. You may not have seen it yet because I wanted to get to meet with him.
Okay,
Jim?
Great. Jim is, well, he may be in a different place on your screen, but he's here with us tonight and he's been listening. And so I'll try to get you, Jim, if that's okay with you, if I get your contact.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. Yeah, we want to talk.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Very good. Anybody else? Let's see. I see Brian who
Brian's hand been up.
has your hand up. We can't hear you, Brian. You're going to have to unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
we go. You're good now.
Hello, Daniel. My question is about many Gray experiencers have been told by the Grays that the Grays don't want full disclosure. That has to be done gradually, methodically, and all of humanity needs to be brought along. And some even think that the Gray aliens are in charge of disclosure, not the governments. And they've suggested to the government, say, since 2017, to start having some gradual disclosure. So do you think this push for disclosure, full disclosure, is not really necessary, that we should just be patient and take it one step at a time?
No, usually that you earn your way into discovery of things. It's only by demonstrating when you're ready, the teacher will appear. So that we have to demonstrate our enthusiasm for this and going out and reaching out to them and soliciting their assistance and asking for them to come and join with us in this whole process. It's not going to offend them. I mean, they're going to say, "Oh, good, things are ahead of schedule. Their people are coming awake all around the world and joining together and forming groups to go out and sit in the meadows and call them in. That this is fine. There's going to be an element inside our human family that's filled with fear and thinking that they're demons or they're demonic and they're satanic and all that kind of stuff. Don't worry about that. It's just a particular worldview that they've got, which is filled with fear and anxiety and constraint and restrictions. But we're ready to go on this thing. And if it appears that the beings that seem to be the most and coordinating these activities are really what they call the mantis people. The mantis people are very, very tall, almost 7 feet tall, extremely thin. Kind of bent over at the top, look like people. It reminds people of praying mantises, but they call them the mantis people. That almost whenever you encounter more than one of these species at the same time, if there's a mantis person there, they seem to be in charge. The other species seem to yield to them as the coordinators of what they're doing. And so these are, but all the people, all the different UFO people. We want to reach out and share our welcome to all of them. Yeah, if we encounter any of them that have kind of a lower base motive, that we have to then try to reach out to their other people to assist us in having conversations with them to persuade them that this is not a good idea, and that we don't want to engage in any kind of violent activity with them, but we want to persuade them to stand down in pursuit of those kind of lower motives. And I think we can succeed in doing that if we develop our diplomatic skills, and that's, I say, we're going to have an entire set of courses. There's an entire major at the undergraduate school in diplomacy and foreign policy and in how we're going to try to adjust our institutions on our planet to accommodate this new era that we're going to be in.
Thank you. Bob Boyle, you had a question?
Yes, I do. You mentioned the Senate Intelligence Committee a couple times.
Yes,
And I believe you even said your office is very physically close to them.
it is. It's right next door, Bob.
Okay, so what I would like to, I'm kind of hoping and assuming you have some insight into their thinking. My question is, do they actually know anything at this point? Or is it more like, well, they've heard this rumor from one guy and a different rumor from another guy? Do they actually have any solid information?
Yeah, they do. The answer is absolutely yes, Robert. That they have interviewed under oath at least 40 different people. They've subjected them to cross-examination. They've subjected them to lie detectors, to verify what it is they're saying. This is a full-scale professional investigation that's going on with the Senate Intelligence Committee, conducted by professionals with their own attorneys. So this is actively underway right now, and they're attempting to share these witnesses now over with the House Oversight Committee so that we can bring the House on board as well and overcome the resistance of those couple of guys that head up a couple committees over there. Yeah, the answer is yes.
If I can ask a quick follow-on question.
Sure.
I'm very intrigued by what you just said about they've polygraphed some of these people. I did polygraphs for the CIA for a while. Where'd they get these polygraphers from to do these tests?
Well, they're actually using a PSE, Robert. It's not the normal.
Oh, okay.
They've elevated all the way to the psychological stress evaluators that they're using on this.
Well, it's interesting they're using something to try to get some confirmation.
Yes, absolutely. No, they're doing this in a thoroughly professional manner, and we had hoped that we'd have this independent board that would be there that would be able to retain their entire full-time testers and stuff. But the committee itself is doing this at the present time.
When are they going to tell us what they've learned?
Well, it's interesting that they brought on 3 additional witnesses to add to Colonel Grosh's testimony of July 26th. They just Friday morning were here on Monday, but Friday morning they brought on 3 additional witnesses out of the 40 that they've already vetted and prepared for testimony. And we're working to try to roll these people out like 3 at a time to be able to enable the committees to absorb the information.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just go to one other person here. Mom Magnus, I'm not sure who that is, but if
Yeah, that's me.
yes,
First, I just wanted to say that your work has really, really meant a lot to me over the years, and unfortunately, it sounds trite, but I'd say it's fair to say that you're one of my heroes. And I'm nervous, but one thing that strikes me is that our institutions seem so feeble, like the US government's a joke in the face of the trillions soaked up by these black projects and the millions of citizens enamored by what seem to me cynical politicians and talking heads. And yet, one of the things I find so heartening about you is that you seem to still take our institutions completely seriously and you work through them. And it seems naive, but you're obviously a profoundly practical and grounded man. So how robust do you think our institutions are, and can our government as currently structured be effective in the face of these unprecedented changes? Why do you think it makes sense to?
That's a great set of questions. That's a great set of questions. Yeah, that I do know that the institutions by their nature tend to be pretty protective of things the way they are, and that they change slowly over time. It's the conservative worldview that has sort of institutionalized itself in the institutions. Now, in that sense, it's good. Like, for example, in the face right now, we see some challenges where there's a lot of pushback against genuinely free speech, on the internet, for example, and that the United States government, some of the people in there who don't know any better, are saying, "Oh, we've got to suppress this. We've got to suppress this information. For example, they had the Rand Foundation, I think, do a major study. This was Google had a major study saying, oh, we're getting lots of pressure from the government to threaten Public Law 230 that gave us exemption from libel and slander to have platforms where people can openly discuss things. And that now the government's threatening to take away that immunity against libel and slander lawsuits unless we do what they tell them to do and we suppress the people they want. And so what they did is they engaged the Rand Institute to do a study for them as to how they could identify people that were sowing disinformation on the internet. And the Rand Corporation came back with, here's the things you look out for. People who are talking about the JFK assassination and they don't believe the Warren report, the people that don't believe the 9/11 Commission report, and people that are the anti-vax people that are raising questions about the origins of the virus. They believe that it came out of a laboratory, that it was a result of reckless engineering of trying to do a what they call it, a increase of function for the SARS virus. And finally, UFO people. You find people on the internet that are trying to flog the issue that UFOs are real. They said, here are the 4 things that you need to look out for, and that you need to flag these people and try to cut them off the website. And so that it gives you some idea of how out of time the major institutions are, in that they rely upon people like the Rand Institute or the Rand Corporation to do their studies for them. So, but all of that having been said, one of the protections that we have is the institutional protection of free speech, the institutional protection of freedom of religion, freedom of the press. You know, I've represented the New York Times when we came forward to insist upon publishing all 47 volumes of the top secret Pentagon papers. And people said that we were nuts to think that you could possibly ever get to publish those things without getting put in prison. But it was Jim Goodell, who was general counsel for the New York Times. You know, I was the one that received the telephone call from him when they got the documents to hold the meeting about what we were going to do with these documents. And my position was print them right on. I said the only decision the New York Times really needs to make is the size of the fonts, the font size. Page of the New York Times. I said when you print it. You know, so I've been there. I've been in these meetings over and over again, and we've achieved things over the past 50 years. We stopped the construction of all of the dangerous private nuclear power plants in the United States. You know, we caught the people who did the killing of Karen Silkwood. We stopped the smuggling of bomb-grade plutonium to Israel and Iran at that time. You know, we stopped the smuggling of weapons to the Contras in violation of the Bone Amendment. We've been able to accomplish those things, you know, and but at the same time, we have extraordinarily high ideals as to what we intend to come into full fruition in our country. And it's a kind of a slower process when you try to work through the institutions. That's why we have a 2-track operation going on here. It's not just working with the institutions, trying to get them to perform their constitutional duties, so that the Congress of the United States can say, look, we're the elected representatives of the people. Some undisclosed executive secret black program cannot keep secrets from our Congress, who are the people's representatives. So we work through the institutions there, but at the same time, we have a second track going of get out into the fields, sit down, you know, open yourself up, invite the UFO people to come down, try to get trained to be a diplomatic corps, to have direct communications with them. You know, go to the churches, try to get them to open themselves up to sharing the secrets of the human spirit with people more and more. We have a 2-track program going on here, both to deal with the institutions and to go around the institutions to the extent to which they're not performing their constitutional duties. We're not going to sit back and rely totally upon them. So you needn't worry. We're going to do both things.
Thank you. How about Nick? Do you have a question, Nick?
I do have a quick question. So with all that's coming out, do you think that we will be able to trust our institutions? Or what are your
We'll be
thoughts
able
with
to what,
that?
Nick? We'll be able to do what?
Trust our institutions?
No, no, you don't trust the institutions. Don't ever trust the institutions. You know, you work with them, but just like when we represent the Lakota people up in North South Dakota, don't trust white people. You know, do not ever trust white people. You know, they betrayed you. They've screwed you over a million times in every single way. Don't trust them. You know, but we'll work to try to get them to do things at the same time we're going around them. But at this point, I think that we can transform the institutions into fulfilling the promises that they've made to our people. This is an existential process that we're engaged in now. You know, that I used to laugh when I was at Harvard Law School. The reason they carve all these mottos over the doors in marble is because they know they're not true yet. So they want to make sure, you know, so that you can stay after this thing, you know, that all people are created equal, you know, that they're endowed by their creator with these inalienable rights, et cetera. You know, that we have these extraordinarily progressive principles and policies that have been enunciated by our institutions in the country. It's unique almost in the history of the world, at least the history that we know about. You know, in that what we have this opportunity is the 5% of the people on the planet that are here in the United States, in Canada, for example, that we can enliven these institutions to fulfill the promises that they've made because they've made the promises to us, and that we can draw them out into the sunlight and confront them with their own truth. So what I'm saying is that the proclamations that have been made by our Western powers and our United States government declaring that there is a creative power in the universe that has created our human species and has endowed us with these fundamental, profound rights that entitle us to democratic decision making about our own country and our own planet is true. And the scientists and the national security state people and all of these people don't know it. Mm-hmm. But we do. We know it's true. And we're going to show them that the fact of the matter is we can organize. We can sacrifice to learn all the information about the UFO thing. We can take the time to go out and sit in the fields and open our hearts and open our souls to the big and invite them to come to our planet so that we can share in the kind of multitude of values and things that we can learn from these people. Okay? We can show the people who are thinking that they're making false promises to us that they really may not intend to ever keep. We can show them that they have to do this. They have to obey their own visions, their own dreams. Okay. And we can make these things true, not because we're making them true, but because they are true. And what we have to do is to demonstrate that we have the faith in this. And that's why the list of 100 facts that we need to know about the UFO phenomenon, we need to understand that our material universe, and this is one of the things that we're going to be discovering and encountering these beings that have had as much as 6 billion years longer of evolution than we had on our planet, that they've explored the fundamental and profound questions that underlie the creation of our universe, that they have come to understand how our universe came into being, how it's teleologically evolved to the point where it is, what it's headed toward, you know, what the sources of consciousness are in the universe. All of these secrets are available for us, but we have to be prepared for this. We have to be prepared for this. Okay. Right. So this is getting ready to happen right now. And so I'm saying is that you have to become part of this whole thing. You have to realize the reality of all of the basic fundamental values that you've ever learned in Western civilization and in the higher consciousness of all the spiritual traditions of our human family, that these are real. And you have to conduct yourself with full knowledge that they're real, and it's going to be the salvation of our human species.
Well said. Well said. And so I think probably we'll end this now. I'm gonna, you know, edit this a little bit and I'll put it up on YouTube, and let's try to send everybody the link to it. And, you know, please feel free to, if you have a YouTube channel, put it up on your channel. You know, I want to just put this out there as far and wide as we can. This preparation that Danny's talking about here is why we're all here tonight, and trying to educate each other so that we can go out into the world and spread this news, this great news that we're not alone, and we can overcome a lot of these problems that are facing us today if we can get together and work together on it. So thank you so much, Danny, for being with us here tonight,
Thank you, everybody.
this evening.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
It was great. It was great.
Newparadigminstitute.org. Come and see
Right.
us.
Right. Everybody will. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Okay.
No,
So, yeah, I'll just go ahead and see if anybody else has any comments or anything before we disband here. Yes, Brian, I think you're muted.
Well, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah, I was gonna say to Danny, like, I agree with what he was saying about, we could terminate our whole species, but what if that justifies, like, John Mack was saying back in 1993 that there's a breeding program going on. And now one of the major theories is that the mantids and greys have decided to hybridize us. So have more of a hybrids of the greys with Homo sapiens sapiens, so have more of a spiritual orientation, perhaps quantum dimensional consciousness, live more in harmony with nature. And like Richard Jolin was saying in his book, Alien Agendas, that it seems 40,000 years ago, they tweaked us, they gave us bigger brains, and maybe they're just coming back for another tweak. And maybe that's actually what's going on in the current process now. So I was just wondering what you thought about that, or anyone else. That was what I was going to ask Danny next.
well, does anyone have any comments about that? My comment is that certainly, one of the things that we've learned is that there's a genetic component to this whole process that's going on, and you just have to ask, well, why would that be? Why would that be? And it seems like, to me, the obvious answer is that they've had something to do with our genetics, whether it was 40,000 years ago or whether it's been an ongoing process. We have all these stories in the Bible about the incubus and the succubus and these creatures that come in the night and seduce people and have sexual relations with them. And, all of those stories came from somewhere. I don't think that people just made that stuff up. I think that this is something that's been going on potentially for a long time. And so if they want to come down here and tweak us, I think we could still use some tweaking. I don't mind it so much. I look around me and I just see too much violence and these nuclear weapons pointed in every direction, and people, climate change overwhelming our civilization and nobody really seeming to want to do anything about it insofar as getting on with this disclosure and moving on to how we can utilize those technologies and get those things out to academia in the world where people with the best and brightest minds on the planet can study these things. So yeah, we could probably use another upgrade, in my opinion. Yeah, Jim,
I'm in favor of it. It's very big debate.
Yeah, Jim, yes.
They're
I think
hiding something. They're hiding something. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
They're hiding something, and it's not just embarrassment. And so, Brian may have hit on something. It's hard to say what's behind the curtain, but that kind of stuff may be behind the curtain.
when you say they're hiding something, can you clarify that a little bit?
Okay, the military, because in the intelligence community, they know a lot more than my question in doing research in this for a long time is why? Why are they being so difficult? I cannot think of another issue in my lifetime where Congress has had to do 3 rounds of legislation in
Uh-huh.
3 years. And there's got to be something, and they're still hiding it. I've even heard from 1 or 2 people, 2 different people, that in February of last year, there were tons of military flights out of certain bases that, you know, like they're trying to get 1 step ahead of the Senate on this and get rid of these programs. In fact, I have one friend who has a son who worked on one of the bases and has some sort of radiation poisoning along with the rest of his classified unit. And so there's probably, you know, as David Gersh said, you know, there's probably that kind of stuff, but there's got to be something more for an 80-year program that has just been trashing people and violating civil rights for decades. There's got to be something.
Yeah.
And I speculate, but I don't know.
Well, I don't either. But yeah, I mean, it seems like it must be such a profound secret or, you know, things that they just don't want the public to know. And I don't know what that is.
The other thing I don't know is I've never seen such a beautiful home as Joan Bird's, where she was on with all those plants and stuff. She had, that was quite a house.
Yeah, I know. I saw that and I was wondering where Joan was. Is that if that's in her home or where that was? Well, anyway, does anybody else have anything that they want to discuss, or shall we adjourn? Yeah, okay. I don't see any hands. Oh, Jim, did you have anything else you wanted to
Thank
say?
you.
Oh,
Thank you
sure.
very much.
Oh, yeah. So I'll get this video up and I'll send everybody a link, and I'll also, you know, I've got a bunch of notes here that with links to other stuff that I think people need to know about. And also I wanted to show you my Christmas present, one of my Christmas presents. It's a look at the strength of this tractor beam. It'll lift up 3 cow paper clips all at once. So that's pretty cool. And then I got this game, Invasion of the Cow Snatchers, along with it. And then for Martin Luther King Day, I've been celebrating with some Bud Light. So cheers to Martin Luther King. Thank you so much for all you did for us. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks for coming.
Great job, Richard. Great job.
Good
Yeah,
job.
thank you, Richard.
Okay, I appreciate everybody coming. Thank you. Good night.